Alright, what is up guys, my name is Solheim and you are watching the best class for Wrath of the Lich King Classics, Fresh Servers. The intro kinda speaks for itself. We'll be discussing a couple of classes in this video, and just how good they are on these fresh servers. I've always been very into the economical side of the game, so gold making is definitely something I will take into consideration in this video, but you also need to consider how good the class is for leveling, both in terms of how easy it is to level up, and how fast it is. I'm going to go through this video from worst class to best class in a top 5 fashion, starting with number 5 going all the way to number 1, so let's go. Class number 5 is Hunter. Hunters are really strong in Classic WoW in general, and as these are fresh servers, having a pet tank to tank for you is really beneficial, as it removes a certain gear requirement when it comes to pretty much anything. Questing, leveling up, farming gold at max level, Hunters can be very strong with minimal gear, as they can spec into Beast Mastery and deal incredible damage no matter what. It is also really beneficial for questing. You can quest pretty easily and you always have a tank with you. Being able to solo somewhat difficult elite or group quest can be very handy, and if you're smart enough to dungeon level from level 58 to 70, you can also fly around and do quests in Outland with pretty high efficiency and make a lot of raw gold from doing those quests at max level. You could alternatively choose a warlock instead of a hunter. It is really just a personal preference really, as the main thing here is the no gear requirement due to having a personal tank companion. In 4th place we have Death Knights. Death Knights are incredible for several reasons. Number 1 is that they start at level 55 and can level to level 58 pretty quick, getting right into Burning Crusade content from the get-go. The downside here is that you need to have a different class at level 55 before making a Death Knight, so this is not one of those classes you can go with from the start of these fresh servers, but if you pick another class from this list, you can also create a Death Knight and start at level 55, and suddenly you have 2 classes that are great. Death Knights really are good at multiple things. Blood Death Knights can do some pretty huge AoE pulls and tank difficult mobs with their incredible self-heals, and if boosting does not get fixed, well, which it will, then they can also do some boosts as well, but they can also farm raw gold inside dungeons, even if the boosting thing gets fixed, which again, boosting is not going to be a thing in Wrath. And also, Frost Death Knights can deal damage really fast and nuke down mobs, and as Unholy you can spec into On a Pale Horse talent to get plus 20% movement speed, which will help you while flying around. If you choose Engineering and hunt for gas clouds, that plus 20% will be pretty significant, and the same goes for Herbalism and Mining as well, making Death Knights a pretty strong class for farming gold in general. Death Knights also start at level 55, and the required level to have Northrend crafting professions is 65, making Death Knights the perfect profession alt if you want to have a profession alt for crafting purposes only. Taking 3rd place is a Druid. Druids really are a jack of all trades. No matter how you want to farm gold, the Druids can do it, and they are actually quite effective at pretty much everything as well. If boosting becomes a thing again, or you can just farm raw gold inside dungeons, you can do certain dungeons as a Guardian Druid in bear form, and if you want to farm gold in the open world, you have both Boomkin and Feral Druids that are both capable of farming mobs with high efficiency. Boomkins can do huge AoE pulls, and in Wrath, their Starfall damage will be absolutely lethal, and Feral Druids excel at pretty much smaller pulls but chain pulling mobs back to back without any downtime whatsoever. If you want to grab Herbalism and Mining, you can also fly around in your Swift Flight form, allowing you to mount up without that mount cast time, which is actually incredible. And if you prefer farming resources inside dungeons, you can also stealth farm by going cat form and using Prowl. Stealth farming will likely be much less of a thing in Wrath due to less resources inside dungeons and also more mobs guarding them, but for TBC you can definitely make some gold by stealth farming still. Druids are also quite fast at leveling, and by being a Feral Druid you can even tank dungeons, which allows you to find dungeon groups more easily, and Feral Druids are a lot less gear dependent while leveling up as well, allowing you to level up quickly and without having to care too much about your gear. And in second place we have the Mage. Mages are incredible, that's it. No, but really though, mages are fantastic. You can spec into deep freeze spec, so your frostbolts have a chance to freeze the target every now and then if you want to solo more difficult mobs, or you can deep spec into AoE and blizzard farming for some huge AoE farming sessions, and the latter one is usually what I recommend. AoE farming is great, and for fresh servers like these ones, farming raw gold will be the ultimate way of farming gold, and we all know that the real way of farming raw gold outside of questing at max level is to AoE farm. That is why mages and paladins are used so much for gold farming to begin with, because AoE farming provides you with a lot of raw gold plus auctionable materials. Specifically for these Wrath servers, you can AoE farm your way to level 70, you can AoE farm in Sulfuric while leveling to both level fast and make gold, and once you are level 70, you can AoE farm dungeons for raw gold, cloth, greens, and potentially even auctionable items, such as reputation items or blue items, depending on which dungeons you go for. I imagine a lot of mages will be duoing Shadow Labs for those reputation items, and trying to auction those, but you can also go for example, Shattered Halls farming by doing some clever AoE farming. Also, as long as they don't fix Sulfuric farming for these fresh servers, like they did for Season of Mastery, Sulfuric farming will provide mages with insanely quick levels and roughly 40 gold per hour while leveling up as well, and when it comes to these fresh servers, it is all about having as much raw gold as possible, as early as possible, so you can invest that gold into valuable materials. Speaking of investing, I cover all of the Wrath investments in my Wrath of the Lich King Gold Guide, which you can find a link to down below in the video description, and I'll even be updating this guide for the fresh servers so you know how to make more gold and exactly which items to invest into, so you are set for the launch of Wrath of the Lich King. Make sure you check out that guide, once again the link is down below, and by using the code SOLHEIM you can also get it for 50% off. One more thing, once you purchase the guide, you will also receive all of the future updates for free, so you're always up to date when it comes to gold making information. Okay, class numero uno is Paladin. Paladins truly are amazing in Wrath of the Lich King, that there's pretty much nothing they can't do. Want to farm raw gold? Paladins are great. Want to farm herbalism and mining? Once again, Paladins are great. Want to farm mobs in Northrend? Paladins are great. Personally, I'm looking at having a Paladin with herbalism and engineering in Phase 1 and Phase 2 of Wrath Classic, so I can do a little bit of all types of farms. With herbalism, I can fly around and look for herbs, but I can also farm lashers and use herbalism to gather them afterwards, and there are several locations with lashers in Northrend. With engineering, I can also gather gas clouds for different Eternals, which means I can either farm at a location with several gas clouds available, so I farm mobs while waiting for gas cloud respawns, or I can casually find gas clouds while flying around looking for herbs, meaning herbalism and engineering are the perfect combination for this type of hybrid farming, in my opinion. Later down the line, you can also swap professions and go for example, skinning, so you can do the Oculus gold farm, and even enchanting if you want to solo some dungeons, and disenchant greens and blues. Paladins can also farm a hefty amount of raw gold inside dungeons, like for example Stratholm and old TBC dungeons. And that is pretty much it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.